we're in rough times. Okay, so I'm not going to waste time with this, and I'll get right to it. 2025 is going to be really rough. It already is. We're just barely into the second month. And look at all the chaos of January. Okay, so it's going to get a lot worse. My expectations for what will occur are divergent from what I hope would occur, and they're probably reasonably accurate in a broad brush. So in my opinion, we're going to be going into a spring offensive that will get more and more of these migrant invader fifth columnist saboteur guys setting out fires and doing all this kind of shit. This will include Antifa, at least up until about June or so. Then there will be an incident or two in which USA citizens, in the form of blue-haired Antifa people, will be shot dead in an assault where they should not have been messing around. Right? I don't know what the circumstances will be, but the suggestions are that there will be a bunch of dead people in some kind of an assault, and they'll turn out to be Antifa. And after that, it's going to be Antifa themselves are going to be really freaked out. Again, I don't know what the circumstances are that are going to cause this. That appears to be like in late April, early May or so. In any event, so I think we're going to have a spring offensive. 2025 is going to be even worse. We're going to have more shit falling from the sky. We'll end up with a lot of UFO and UAP activity increasing all the way up through until sort of a visibility peak. I mean, we'll be really paying attention to it in summer, like late July and August. I don't think the activity is going to peak. I think it's just that we're going to become aware of it, and it'll be hitting the media very, very heavily. I actually don't think that there will be organized assaults on chemtrail factories. I don't think in planes. I don't think it's going to be necessary, simply because there's going to be a huge impact to the airline industry that's going to be continent-wide. Well, it'll be global, okay? Because the American continent's going to be under attack. And because there will be ongoing war between government and cartels inside the U.S. and outside, it's going to be very risky for these chemtrail planes to be flying about. Plus, there's going to be a lot of other ancillary activity focused on the weather modification business. A lot of them are going to be doxxed, their bank accounts revealed, all this kind of shit's coming out on the Tor network, and they're just going to let the loonies pick it up and bring it over into the regular internet. So that'll probably be, maybe that'll be in the end of February that'll start. I don't know. There's a big bulge of, all right, so we're in a steepish hill climb at the moment in terms of building tension language. There's a lot of release language with every plane crash, yes, but the general trend is that the language still is building even with these individual release episodes. Over the course of February will ramp up to the point where we get into this bulge where we have to take a big step up in building tension language sometime near the end of the month. It will involve finances, banks, money, that kind of thing. It may be ancillary in the form, it may be, tariff activity and that sort of thing at an international level. It's hard to say at this point. But nonetheless, it'll be impacting of the money supply and what people do with their money and such. And that's when we start really getting into it. The finances start crumbling, and then we have a number of months of the spring assault building, right? So you can think Vietnam, 1967, spring of 1967, leading up to the Tet Offensive in 69. That's their plan, right? Their plan is to overwhelm us 2 years out after crumbling the infrastructure. This is the same playbook they used in Vietnam, China, Russia, everywhere. This one's going to be different, okay? So it's not going to go the way the communists want. It's going to be chaotic beyond their ability to control because their plans are known and because they're really stupid fuckers and have been made more stupid by, breathing chemtrails and shit, right? It's not going to work out that way. It's going to be very, very, very terrible for just ordinary guys here in the U.S. People that are just normies and just want to live their lives and are not participating in any of the war at this active level. The people that are participating in the war at the active level will have a very, very tough year. Okay, and it'll really ramp up after the 26th of February, and it will keep going. And so March is going to be chaotic. There appears to be a slight lull in the chaos around the 10th or so. And then we get into more examples of the stuff through the end of March. March 15 has an interesting aspect to it. So there might be something big that happens that day. But it'll just be within the rest of the developing melee. A lot of people will still be uncertain as to who's fighting who, how, and why, that kind of thing, right? And there will be the debris falling from the sky. We'll be seeing more UFO and UAP appearances, and then we'll also be starting to focus on the water because of information coming out about what's going on under the waves relative to the UAPs and submarines and this sort of thing. So we get into end of March, then we go into April. We get decent weather, and so my thinking is that there's some pressure that is put on by some force, whether it's a human force or external or whatever, in terms of weather itself or something. But the thinking, the suggestion is that by the time we get into the end of March and then into April, we have many, many, many more clear days, indicating that the chemtrail stuff may be fading away, that they may not be doing it anymore simply because they can't get the crud to the planes, they can't get the fuel because of the disruption to the infrastructure, they can't take the planes into the sky because the UFOs and UAPs are too thick, any number of things, right? And so the expectation is, there's geography associated with one part of it, and that is the Portland, Oregon area, okay? And so April, all right, so sometime between the end of March and the end of May, I have an expectation that we may see a chemtrail plane plunge out of the sky, and that it will end up somewhere between Portland and the coast. It'll crash, and there will be damage and stuff, just like in Philadelphia. It'll crash into a not really inhabited area, but a place where there are indeed people. So it's not like it's going to hit big apartment buildings in downtown Portland or anything. And it's going to apparently crash, according to the brief little bits of info I've gotten on this, this forecast. It's just a forecast, right? So hopefully it will not occur this way. But anyway, that the plane would crash over closer to the confluence of the Columbia and the coast. And it'll crash to the point where there's debris and people go and take pictures of it for days, and it gets all over the internet. You can see the guts of the plane and stuff. So it's a somewhat controlled crash. Doesn't obliterate itself into just a pile of smoking rubble. Anyway, so we get into that's a key thing for me, because I think that's a temporal marker for the end of the chemtrail industry forever. I don't know why it comes down, though. So, it could be UFO or who the fuck knows. Anyway, okay, and so April and May are going to be really fierce, right? That's going to be the ramping up of the spring offensive. That's when all these invaders are going to, think that they can get their shit done and start doing things. And also they will be pressured, right? So through February and March and into April, there's going to be moves in the background by officialdom to the point where the cartel people and then Antifa and the NGO-supplied migrants will really be feeling the pressure. They'll be agitated. Also, now that we're getting into the financial stuff, it gets quite severe at the end of February, such that the trend lines of chopping the NGOs off at the knees in terms of their funding and stuff really start having an effect, okay? Once that spigot is shut off, all of the downstream people, including the Antifa, including the invaders, and all of these fuckers, don't get their money, and they don't have any resources. They're not like the guys that have been skimming millions off at the top. These guys are on the street. They're living from paycheck to paycheck from these NGOs. And once those debit cards don't get refilled, they've got maybe 3 days and they're going to react. And so we're going to get chaos at that level as the cohesion of the invaders fractures, because they won't be getting the support that they need. And that cohesion starts breaking at the end of February, around on the 26th. And so by the time we get into the 1st of March, 4 or 5 days later, we're starting to see the effects of it, and that really kicks off this spring offensive thing as these people get really, really agitated because, they don't have the support. Things aren't comfy anymore. They're hearing rumors of the ICE. They're hearing, not rumors, they're hearing news of gun battles that are involving migrants and officialdom. They're seeing the news of the cartels going crazy on the borders, and at that point, so that'll be the end of March, into April, we'll start seeing the border war on the northern border really erupt. And that's going to be quite interesting. We'll see foreign troops being killed on the Canadian side. It won't be Canadian troops. And it's going to get quite ugly up in my neck of the woods. We're sort of preparing for it, that kind of thing. Anyway, and so the chaos level and the melee aspect of it continues, in my opinion, until we get through this peak, or not peak, but the peak of visibility of the UFO, UAP stuff that comes out in June or so. All right, so at that point, there appears to be a general shift within the populace towards a greater understanding on the part of the normies as to what the fuck's really going on. Not that we know, right? But we're getting more cohesion around things that we don't know. So we, at that point we can say, no, these people aren't involved and this sort of thing. We don't know what's really going on, but we know that it's not, or that the cartels are only a minor part of it, right? So they're not the end-all, be-all. We know that the CCP is behind other parts of it, fentanyl and this kind of shit, but they're not the actual controllers. So we don't know who the actual controllers are, but at the time we get into the summer here, in this peak of visibility where we really start paying attention to the skies and things, and then also the ocean, the war takes on a different character. And so control starts to emerge, and so I'm saying that probably sometime between the end of June and the first week of September, we will get to a point where we can say, aha, we're no longer in a melee. We now understand there is control, there's organization to this war. We're starting to see some progress. And then by the end of the year, we should see some real progress, right? And a lot of people will be more comfortable in what's going on. I think personally, I think it's going to be very chaotic this summer, and I think that the Trumpitos organization plan for a big party may somewhat be put in jeopardy. I think that they will go for the planning for a major celebration thing for 2026, but it'll come off, but not as anybody's going to expect because of the changes that will occur between this summer and summer of 2026, which really, I think, in my way of thinking now, I would have to peg the summer of 2026 as the visibility of sci-fi world that could be seen if you wanted to look at it. A lot of people won't understand it. They won't even see it even in hindsight, 4 years later. But I think that's when we start really emerging into sci-fi world. So I have some hope that between this summer, in June of 2025 and June of 2026, that's when we're going to get enough of the zero-point technology, enough of the openness about the UFOs and the UAPs to change the core nature of the social order, right? So right now you've got leftists that are supporting Antifa and this kind of thing. Actually, and soon the Antifa and these people will be begging for money as all the NGOs dry up, right? So they'll go to their local supporters and beg or extort money from them. And they're going to get met with a rude reception because these people won't have money to kick out. And also, as we go through this period where we have peak visibility and stuff, there will be a tendency for humans to think of other humans as we're all in this together kind of thing, us against the aliens. So there'll be less tolerance for aberrant behavior, especially the Antifa kind of shit. And also people will be getting really, really touchy and twitchy. So I'm suspecting that let me see here. So sometime in April, so let's just say April 15th. So sometime by the middle of April or so, we should start seeing lots of people with open carry weapons. Just walking around the street with an AR-15 because you never know what the fuck's going to go on, right? And there will be far less prohibition of it and far less social stigma of it because of the situation that's ongoing with the spring offensive against the United States. And so, like I say, this to me lines up very neatly with what had been done in Vietnam in 1967. And I think that because we know the playbook, because of all of these different kinds of things, it's not going to have the same result. And in fact, the conditions of the visibility of the UFOs and the UAPs change everything this summer. And they change the mindset, and humanity changes over the course of the next couple of years at a very deep level as a result of this particular level of exposure. Now, we get into all kinds of chaos and stuff after that, and so it's going to be a rough, 10 or 20 years in this shit. But this is the peak of it, the spring offensive coming out and the violence across the United States. And I think, if I had to bet in a pool, I would say that we would have mainstream media, such as it is, legacy media, New York Times, these kind of fuckers, admitting that we're at war and to some extent admitting that they were wrong to support the left. And I think that'll come out by the 1st of March. Okay, I think what's really going to kick us is what's going to happen at the end of February, and it's going to it's going to take these organizations and shake them to their core, and they're going to start, getting on board, so to speak, right? Anyway, it's going to be a rough year. Endeavor to survive. 2025 is not just a saying. Keep proximity, be aware of what the hell's going on around you, people. Don't walk around looking at your phone, because that may end up getting you killed.